Hello, hello. Hi, this is Mike Patel, Home Service Central channel on YouTube. Welcome to my channel if you're brand new and if you're a repeat viewer of mine, I highly appreciate that. So let me just go one thing here. Let me get all the ducks in a row here. There you go. All right, we have an exciting program today and we're going to talk about the American dream. The American dream has been for many people, many households to own the home. That has been the American dream. But I want to show you today how that American dream is being crushed. And the new American dream may be just being able to rent. So the topic today is the new American dream is renting and what sellers must know, because how does that affect if you're a homeowner, your community, if you're going to think about selling. So there's a lot of things we need to discuss today. And let me just check something. I just got a message here. Make sure everything's working. Yep, sound is good. I was having somebody check the sound because last time I could not get the sound. So it is working, which is all good. So going back to our topic, let me read an intro. By the way, again, I'm Mike Patel. I am in Anaheim Hills, Orange County, California. My channel name is Home Service Central. And to get started, I wanted to read a quote which I came across, the intro line, what we call. They're calling it the new American dream, but it's not about owning a home anymore. It's about renting one. And if you own a home or if you're thinking of selling now or in the next few years, this shift could dramatically change who buys your home, when they buy it, and what price you'll get. So we're not going to talk about, hey, if you're thinking about buying, how can I buy a house? Why can I not buy a house? How much is it going to cost? But we're going to talk on the perspective of you are already a homeowner and you may be thinking about selling, or you're not going to move anymore and you're going to stay there. But how will tenants coming in affect your lifestyle, your neighborhood, your cul-de-sac, your little community that you have? And there will be a huge impact, because what's happening is, and one of the other things I'm going to talk about, two things. One is that why are we as a nation becoming renters? That's the American dream. And how the corporate world, Wall Street, Blackstone, big corporations, private equity, public companies are buying homes by the droves, which means they are buying by the hundreds, by the thousands. As we know, during the COVID times, they got a lot of money. And a lot of the money that was to be used for COVID or business or whatever, a lot of these private equity firms and these large corporations, including Blackstone, bought thousands and thousands of homes. One, because they had a lot of money from the government. And number two, the rates were 3%, 2%, 1%. Not 1%, but at least 2 to 2.5%, 4%. So they bought it. In fact, some of them are selling and actually developing other housing units specifically to rent. So I'm going to show you. In fact, let me show you. I'll show you a screen here. Let me just look at over here. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me here. Let me show you a screen. First of all, I want to talk about why are Americans, why is the typical household becoming a renting nation? Why can they buy a house? Let me show you some stats before we go into how the corporate world is taking over the internet. Taking over the housing. So let me add something here. I'm going to show you a slide. Let me see here. Okay, there you go. So let's talk about something that's happening or has happened. As you know, right now, 5 years ago, the median home price was near $300,000. 5 years later, the median home price in the USA is, I think, around $450,000. So I'm going to use a number here. Let's say a household buys a house today. It's going to cost an average of about $430,000, and that's what I put in the home price as an example. I put a down payment of 15%. The myth is that you have to put 20% down, but an average is about 15%. A long-term rate, I'm going to put 30-year fixed. Interest rate, I'm going to put 6.5. It used to be 6.75. couple of days ago, they've been dropping to 6.5 because the Feds cut the interest rate, not the mortgage rate, but all the bankers, the lenders, the other institutions already dropped the rates in anticipation. They already do that. They go ahead of the curve. They knew that September the interest rates are going to drop, so they reduced the mortgage rate. So don't expect a big drop coming September when the Feds drop the interest rate, because the mortgage rates have already dropped. That's a whole new topic, but just want to throw it out there. So, and assuming that in Orange County it's 1.1%. By the way, there's nothing in Orange County or Southern California for $430,000. But let's assume we're in Texas or Montana or Utah or somewhere, and the interest rate is 1.1% as an example. Home insurance, let's assume it's $1,500, although it's going to be a lot more in California. Let's make other cost, which is not relevant here, is $4,000. So if you look over here on the right, and I'm assuming you can see this, I wanted to see it on my channel here. So if you can see, the mortgage payment is $2,310, which is just the principal and interest. If you look at the property tax on a monthly basis, it's about $395. And if you look at the home insurance, it's about $125 per month. Other cost is about $31.62. Now the other cost includes utilities, water, gas, trash, etc. So the payment is about $31.62. Now what I wanted to show is that a payment of $333, what I wanted to show is that the household income in USA is about $80,000, right? So if the household income is $80,000, what is that monthly? I just want to say it out loud here. Divide by 12. That's about $6,600 a month, right? 80,000 divided by 12 is $6,600 a month. Now here's the dilemma. Now this does not take into account if you have a homeowners association, the medical cost, if you have parents you're taking care of, if you have kids where you have to have a lot of expense. This does not take any of that consideration. The banks don't take that into consideration. The dilemma we have is the banks want a ratio of about 30% or less when you buy a house. So in this case, at $3,000, you need to be making around $9,000, which is over $100,000. So the number one issue is affordability. I read a report just a few days ago that the affordability in USA has been the lowest in the last 42 years, according to Realtor.com. Furthermore, here's another stat. The stat shows that 66% of the households in the USA today, what is it, August 2025, 66% cannot afford a house, cannot afford to buy a house over $250,000. Now here's the question. How many homes are out there that are decent over $250,000? Not a whole lot, but even those homes, 66% of the households cannot afford it. So why are we becoming a renting nation? A dream. The dream is for people just to be able to afford it, which is very expensive as well. In Los Angeles County, when somebody rents a house or somebody buys a house, the debt ratio is over or almost 50%, which means that if they get $1,000 a month, well, shouldn't say 1,000, but which is nothing. But let's say, for example, if they get $1,000 a month, they're spending $500 in household payments, not groceries and all that. So that's a lot, and that's why it's becoming very, very difficult, especially in metro areas. I'm sure in some urban areas or rural areas, it's not very expensive, but we're headed where people cannot afford anything. You go to a fast food today. I don't eat burgers, but Carl's Jr. combo is $15. You get fries, Coke, and a burger. $15 used to be $5 5 years ago. Starbucks coffee today, and a tall, I go to Starbucks, I went there yesterday, and the coffee was $5.25 for a regular small size. So it's becoming very, very expensive, and housing has become very expensive. The mortgage rates are very expensive. And the other reason why a lot of the buyers cannot afford to buy a house today is two things which we never considered previously. We all used to have property taxes, right? In Southern California, I mentioned our property tax is 1.1%. So our property tax is still the same. But in a lot of states like Florida, Nebraska, Texas, and other states, depending on the county, the property tax have doubled, tripled, quadrupled. The homeowners insurance, my homeowners insurance in the last 2 or 3 years has skyrocketed. I'm in the fire zone here in Orange County. My house is near some hills and all those fire zone area. So my insurance has shot up. So which these cost, homeowners insurance, if I have it, property tax, insurance, high property, high interest rate, which jacks up my price, high home prices to begin with. So all of a sudden, I have to dish out almost 50% of my paycheck just for housing payment. So it's becoming very, very difficult. Then you have your car payments, you have gas payments, you have utilities, you have schools. Back to school supplies are very expensive. So buying a house is getting out of reach, and a lot of people are not buying it. So let's switch gears. In fact, let me show you something before I move on. Here's an article, and this is not me talking, and I brought this article up. This article is pretty recent. Let me see if I can find the date here. Let me share it first. Hold on. Just give me a minute, please. Share your screen. As you can see here, go back here. The American dream is no longer buying a house. It's paying off debt, which means they cannot afford the house. The debt is so high that they have to pay up the debt in order to buy a house, but that's not going to happen soon at all. In fact, one of my friends who works for a credit card company in the processing department, in the IT department, said that in the last 30, 40 years, the ratio of debt, the credit card debt, is the highest it has ever been. So not only that, the rates are so high, and after COVID, the interest rates went up in the last few years. So the the credit card rates average 20-25%. So imagine there's a credit card debt of $10,000. Let me turn this off here. Sorry. The credit card interest payments are 20-25%. That's if you have good credit. I have a FICO score very, very well, and my credit cards are 20-21% interest rate. If you have a bad FICO score, then you probably have 28-30% of mortgage rate, credit card rate. Sorry, I got distracted by this text that I got. So anyway, I wanted to look at this. Let's go further down. Let me see here. This report says that Gen Zers are having a difficult time buying a house because of the increasing cost of home ownership and because many are drowning in debt related to student loans, credit cards, and buy now, pay later arrangements. Just 3% of homeowners in the US are Gen Zers, according to the National Association of Realtors. Buying a house has long been the American dream. It's a sign of financial stability and is often considered one of the ultimate investments one can make. By the way, that dream is gone. It's no longer a dream anymore. So as you can see, let me do this maybe, okay, that's all right. Okay, so let's move on, and I'm going to talk about, on one side, it's becoming very difficult for homeowners and households to buy a house. So that is reducing the number of people buying homes, and it has been slow. In fact, 2025 and 2024 are one of the slowest years where the number of homes sold have been the slowest in the last 10 to 15 years. Back in 2021, 2022, over 6 million homes sold. In 2023, it was around 5 million. 2024, it dropped to 4.2. And this year, it's around similar rate of volume. In other words, the number of home sales has been down. 2026, we'll see what happens. If the rates go down, according to the reports, the home prices are not coming down. They're going to stay higher. They're not dropping significantly, but overall, they're holding the prices. And one of the reasons that home prices are staying stable despite the increase in inventory is because, yes, inventory has gone up 20, 30, 40% nationwide overall, but they're still at historic lows. In 2008, the inventory was almost 10 to 12 months of supply. Right now, we're still at 3 months supply, which is historically very low. 4 to 6 months supply is what we call a normal market, or the normal housing inventory. But I want to show you something else. Let me see here. Talking about this, let me go back here, share screen. Just give me 1 minute. There you go. Okay. This is from Fast Company. This article came out in April 2025. And it says here that, let me go here. Housing market affordability is so stretched that home turnover hits a 40-year low. I mentioned that earlier. When adjusting for U.S. population size, U.S. existing home sales are hovering around 4-decade lows. Want more housing market stories from Lance? Okay, let me read this out so you get a perspective here. At this paragraph, it says here, but here's the thing. Today's housing market is even more constrained when you consider that the U.S. now has 76.3 million more people and 33.2 million more households than it did in 1995. To illustrate this point, Resi Club created the following chart. U.S. existing home sales adjusted for population size. So here's the chart. U.S. existing home sales are hovering near historic lows when adjusted for population levels. So I won't get too much into it, but look at 2005. These are existing home sales. They were very high, historical high event. In the 1975, it was very high. 2005, obviously, because of the big recession and the home prices were so low that a lot of the people bought after the recession and just before the recession. Then it became very low because a lot of people lost jobs, businesses could not operate, FICO scores were out, nobody had savings account. So from 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, pretty much housing was terrible. And then since 2010, for the first time in history, we've seen an increase for almost 15 years or almost 16 years. If you can see, the prices still keep going down. It went up very high in 2020, 21, 22, historical high levels, but look where it has dropped. In 2025 or 2024, it has dropped to a level which is historically low. And these are existing home sales, not counting new homes. But even new homes today are taking a beating. A lot of the builders are giving you 2.99% interest rate, even though the market rates are 6.75%. They're giving you closing costs. They're giving you free upgrades. They're giving you help with down payment if you get an FHA loan, which is the government loan. So there's a lot of things happening with affordability, and people cannot afford it. So now let's go to the next step. What I want to show you is this screen here. Okay. What's happening here, actually not this slide, let me switch it quickly. I'll come back to this slide. I want to show something else. Sorry about that. Just bear with me. Let's see, share screen. There's so many screens here. Okay, there we go. That's what I want to start with. I've got 3 or 4 slides, and bear with me. I've got 3 or 4 slides on what's happening. What is happening is, on one end, as I mentioned several times so far, people cannot buy homes and they cannot afford it, but instead of buying, they're scrambling to rent homes or apartments or whatever. On the other hand, these big corporations, private equity firms, Wall Street firms, big developers, what I call sharks, they are building homes today, 2025. They're building apartment units, but more than that, they're building homes, typical homes, 100, 200, 500 homes. But guess what? They're not selling those. They're renting those. So this is from Realtor.com. This came out in May 2025. It talks about the trends, what's happening in real estate trend. And I want to make sure I'm on the right page here. Let me read it out. Build to rent developers take over entire neighborhoods across the US. And these 5 metros top the list. And we'll get to the list. I want to read this paragraph. The build to rent sector of the domestic housing market is booming, with developers churning out single family rentals for those who either cannot afford to buy a home or are seeking a maintenance-free lifestyle. Roughly 100,000 new build-to-rent, BTR, that's a new one. First time I'm hearing that. Roughly 100,000 new build-to-rent, BTR properties are being developed across US right now. This is August 2025, coming on the heels of a banner year from the industry, which saw a record 39,000 rental single-family homes completed, up more than 15% compared with 2023, according to a recent report. According from a recent report from point2homes.com, citing March data from the real estate research company Yardi Metrics. Build-to-rent housing works similarly to apartment buildings under property management companies, but offers a single-family living experience in a community setting. Rentals range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 per month, depending on the type of property, its size, amenity, and locations. So let's talk about the top 5 metros with the highest number of build-to-rent units. Let me see here. So let's talk about Phoenix is the number 1. 17,000 units are being built for rental, not for selling, for rentals. Number 2 is Dallas. 15,000 units are being built right now. Houston, 9,000 units are being built. Atlanta, 8,000 units. And Charlotte, North Carolina, 4,000 units are being built. Let's look at Phoenix, for example. I want to see what this report says about Phoenix. Phoenix's latest BTR development, the bungalows on Camelback, opened last year, becoming the 3rd largest community of its kind to be unveiled in 2024. It offers 334 units with varying prices based on size and features, ranging from around $1,500 per month for a one-bedroom to just over $2,500 for a 3-bedroom. Dallas, let's look at what's happening in Dallas. Dallas has emerged as the 2nd largest BTR, build-to-rent, markets, boasting nearly 14,700 units as of last year, more than 3,000 of them completed in 2024. The surge should come as no surprise, given that the busy Texas hub added roughly 178,000 new residents from 2023 and 2024. So I'm not sure if this surprises you. Is this something new to you? Please make a comment, or let's see. Please make a comment, or if you have any questions, let us know. In fact, I wanted to see a poll. If you're a seller, and I'm assuming you're a homeowner, or if you're a seller, if you sold your home today, would you prefer as the buyer an investor or a family? So would you sell it to an investor and hopefully they can rent it out? Or would you rather prefer, of course you cannot discriminate, but if you had a choice, would you sell it to an investor or a family? Let us know, put it in the comments, and let us know how you feel about the rental markets coming in the housing market. If you're in a nice community, I'm in a nice community, and the last thing I want is a developer that comes in, or Wall Street comes in, or Blackstone comes in and builds 300 homes, and they're all renters. Now, nothing against renters, but what happens is when there's renters, your community changes. I've rented many homes for my clients, and they always say that the way the renters behave or live in a neighborhood or take care of the property is not the same as a homeowner. That's what they say. I'm not saying that. So I wanted to get your opinion. What do you think if a whole bunch of renters come in your community? How will that affect your lifestyle? And we'll talk about that briefly, but I wanted to show this on what's happening as far as so many renters are coming in. And let's talk about why there is so many few buyers. I made some reports over here. The investors purchases in markets, there are markets in Miami, Atlanta, counties in California where investors control 50% of homes. That's correct. I did not make a note on what these counties are, and that's irrelevant over here, but there's at least 5 or 6 counties where 50% of the homes in those counties are owned by investors. Now, I want to point out there's 2 kinds of investors. We're talking about these big investors. We're talking about Wall Street, Blackstone, private equity firms, hedge funds. They're buying millions and millions and billions of dollars worth of housing. At the same time, when it comes to homes and under 4 units, like a fourplex and under, the stats show that 72% of all the rentals under 4 units and single family homes are owned by mom and pops like you and me, right? I own a rental myself. But what's happening is even those who can afford to buy rentals, they're buying more rentals. So instead of a buyer buying a house, the homeowner, let's take a homeowner. I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody bought a house in Anaheim Hills for $250,000. I sold a house for $250,000 in Anaheim Hills. A friend of mine, he lives 4 blocks from here. That house today is worth $1.3 million. Okay? And he's paid off the house. A lot of the sellers like him, and plus he already has one rental. Actually, he has 2 rentals, which I sold him in 2005. What he could do, although he's not doing, what he could do is he's got $1.3 million equity. He doesn't own anything. He can easily pull out $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 or whatever, buy a house in Riverside County, pay all cash, or buy a house in Orange County where median home price is 1.2, put $500,000 down, rent it out, and he'll be positive cash flow. And he can use that cash flow to pay off the mortgage, or the tenant's going to pay the mortgage because, rents are expensive over here. In Orange County, our rental rates are anywhere from $2 per square foot to up to $2.50 per square foot. In other words, if I have a house that's 2,500 square foot, I can easily get $5,000 a month rent. And if I buy a house for $1 million and put $400,000 down, my payment's going to be less than $5,000 a month. So what I was getting at is, on one hand, 3 things are happening. On one hand, potential buyers cannot afford to buy because the principal, interest, tax, insurance, eggs cost, diaper cost, mom's food and medications is very expensive. So they're not buying. They're even having a hard time finding a rental. On the other hand, these investors have so much money, Wall Street money, private money, syndications, they're buying homes, and the rich get richer. The people who have money, they have equity, they have made money in stocks. They're buying more and more homes. Even though they buy 1 home, 2 homes, 3 homes, they're still investors. So it seems like we are becoming a renter nation. The dream now is not to own, is to pay rent. But even that's after you pay off your debt. I have a unit, my client's unit for lease, and it's been 6 weeks. I have not been able to lease it out because I've got 15 applications so far, and the sellers does not want to give to any of those tenants because the rental ratio to their income, Zillow, for example, recommends that if your rent is $2,000 a month, as an example, you should be making about $6,000 a month as a general rule of thumb, 1/3. This is what banks do also. If you're making $10,000 a month, they would like your principal, interest, tax, insurance to be, or at least principal and interest to be about $3,000, 1/3 ratio. So the reason my seller, whose townhouse is for rent for about just under $3,000, out of the 15 applications, most don't make $9,000. In fact, I haven't seen anybody make $9,000. So the ratio is not 1/3. It's 40%, 50%. On top of that, almost 80% of those applicants have FICO score under 575, which is a big no-no. He doesn't want anything under 600, let alone under 640. And the other 20%, either they have a good FICO score, but one of them had filed for a bankruptcy. One of them is on a Section 8, and he does not want to get into Section 8 because the Trump administration, I believe, has signed an order or has a policy that they're getting rid of Section 8. So he is concerned about not getting Section 8 money. So it's been 6 weeks and we have not rented it out. And that makes it difficult for the potential renter to find a place. It's been very difficult for them. Some of them are so desperate that they cannot find anything. And when they find something, the sellers are picky now because they want the right tenant. They don't want a tenant who's going to come in and then not pay, because guess what? From what I understand, from what I hear, is that the courts, at least in Orange County, California, usually favor the tenants. So if they end up in court, eviction or any dispute or liability, there's a good chance the courts will go towards the tenant. So that landlords are very picky, very, very, very picky. So yes, it's becoming difficult to rent because it's expensive, but also because the sellers are very picky. So that's what's happening. So now let's look at the what I want to talk about. I want to show you one more slide before I move on. Let me see which one I was going to show you. Right here. Okay. I want to see what you think about the Wall Street, what they're doing. Let me go back to, let's see here. Give me 1 minute, guys. Thank you for waiting. Show you a slide about Wall Street. Which one is it? California, Wall Street. There you go. And I mentioned Wall Street earlier. This is an article that came out yesterday, August 25th. What's the date today? 25th, 26th? Whatever. It's 1 day old or today. It says here that Wall Street is killing the housing market. In Cleveland, nearly 24% of homes have now been purchased by investors, and they're renting it out. And guess what they do? These investors buy things for one reason: profit and cash flow. So these investors are paying a high price too compared to home prices in 23, 22, 24. Prices have gone up, including in Cleveland, right? So if they buy high, what are they going to do? Are they going to give you less rent? Absolutely not. They're going to charge you higher rent. So it's making it difficult for the buyer, which has become a tenant or a renter, to even find a rental and to afford a rental place. Let's look over here. There are a few more important things than our homes. Alongside providing our shelter, homes are where we make memories with friends and family, where bonds are formed and strengthened. Unfortunately, the right to a home in America is under threat. I didn't say that. Rents have skyrocketed, homelessness is rising, and ownership is increasingly unattainable for most Americans. Furthermore, I'm going to read further. There are multiple causes, but one culprit stands out: classic Wall Street greed. Let me read that again. But one culprit stands out: classic Wall Street greed. Massive private equity corporations and hedge funds are buying up homes by the thousands. Houses, apartment buildings, and mobile home parks alike, and then jacking up rents. Here you go. I did not say that, and I'm going to repeat that. And jacking up rents. Hey, after all, these are Wall Street companies. They have one thing in mind: greed. And let me say greed in capital words, G-R-E-E-D in caps. This trend accelerated after the 2008 financial crisis, when investment firms snatched up homes in foreclosures and began renting them to growing number of people locked up out of ownership. I just want to make sure you'll be able to see it. So let me go back. Let's see Wall Street. Where is Wall Street? There you go. This trend accelerated. Okay. The result, an epidemic of corporate slumlords. I'm going to read further what it says so we can understand what's going on. According to a recent study, nearly a fifth of all homes sold in the first quarter of 2024 were purchased by investment firms, including over a quarter of low-priced homes that might have been affordable to working people. And I don't know what working people is, but that's what it says, according to working people. With their vast wealth, these companies are able to easily outbid real people, often paying a premium to buy properties before they even hit the market. No wonder there's a shortage of homes. There's a lot of other shortages, but here's one more reason why there's a shortage of homes. This reduces supply, which keeps the prices high, by the way, and encourages developers to sell at higher prices that only Wall Street can afford. Once a firm owns a property, they rent it out as an inflated algorithm fixed price, further driving up cost for working people. Take Blackstone. I mentioned Blackstone earlier. Let's see what they have to say. And remember, guys, I'm not saying this. This is the article saying it. Take Blackstone, The trillion-dollar private equity giant owns over 300,000 US residential units, making it the largest corporate landlord in the world. The company has hiked rents in its properties by as much as 64% over the just 2 years. While Blackstone's tenants often can't make rent, CEO Steven Schwarzman now enjoys a net worth of nearly $50 billion. I've seen the impact of Wall Street assault on homes firsthand. Wow. Make a note. I mean, does this surprise you at all? Whether you're watching live or if you're going to be watching this in a recording, I want to find out what you think. Do you agree with this? I mean, the report says what's going on. So are there other reasons why the dream of home ownership is no longer there? The new American dream is renting. Wow, where have we gone? On one point, not to get political, what I'm hearing from other people, a lot of hearing from other reports, inflation is high, unemployment is low, tariffs are coming, which were given to China and India and Canada and Mexico and Euro countries. They're coming to bite us starting this week. The morale is low right now, political morale, business morale, employment morale, affordability is low. What's going on? I hear reports that the country is going back 30, 40, 50 years. Let us know what you think and how is that impacting the housing market? Because housing market is impacted by one thing. It's money. If buyers cannot afford it, which they can't right now, units are not selling, right? When in 2021, 2022, rates were 1%, 2%, 3%. Of course, 1% was if you bought adjustable rates, 3-year loan, 4-year loan. But let's say the average was about 2.5. Everybody bought, right? Because they could afford it. Now, everything's expensive. Not only the home prices are expensive, the interest rates are high, HOAs have gone up, property taxes have skyrocketed, insurance have skyrocketed. If you have cars, car payments have skyrocketed, which counts towards your debt. There's a lot of student loans out there, so a lot of the millennials or Gen Zs cannot afford because the student loan is counted towards your debt ratio. Furthermore, if you buy a house, your maintenance cost is very high. Your daily living is very high. So people are just choking. Forget buying a house. They're choking without buying a house. So a lot of people are switching to renting. So the goal is, or the dream is now, find me a rental that I can afford and I'm not paying my rent and choking, which they are. I mean, how many Americans, when I say Americans, how many households are living paycheck to paycheck and not being able to find rental? And even if they can find rental in LA County, in Orange County, rents are sky high. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, rooms, and I'm not talking apartments, rooms. If I had a house, I can rent this room. I'm in my house. I've made this room into an office. I can get $1,000 easy with no kitchen rights. That means they cannot cook. They cannot use my backyard and they have to park on the street. Yes, with those conditions, I won't do that. And I'm not going to rent my house out or room out. With that, I can get $1,000. Imagine I had a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. I mean, look at that Phoenix. We saw the report earlier. These corporations who built those rooms and apartment units and homes, 1 bedroom, 1 bath there are going for $1,500 a month. A 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So what's happening is it's becoming very expensive. Let me take this out. I want to show you one more screen here. Which one was that? Okay. I want to talk about what's happening in Atlanta, in countries or in areas. Let me share another screen here. I'm sorry about this. Just trying to show you what I can. One more screen here. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, please make them. I'd love to answer them live. Let's see here. Share screen. Let me find it here. Atlanta unit. I'm trying to find where that is. Okay, it's ACC. Just bear with me. There you go. Sorry about that. So this article came out on February 26, 2025. It's from the Atlanta Civic Circle. That's a source. are state lawmakers warning to crack down on Wall Street home ownership. There are over 300 census tracts across metro Atlanta alone where these companies own upwards of 50% of single family rental market. Folks, or sorry to say that, I didn't mean to say that, but what I'm saying is this is the reality. This is happening. It has been happening, and it's on an accelerated movement right now. There are more developments coming. There's more private equity looking for funds. In fact, I read a report today. There was a doctor, a couple doctor. They made a lot of money, sold their practice, and they started their private equity firm. And the sole purpose of that private equity firm is to buy, develop big housing units, big housing tracts for the sole purpose of renting, not to sell homes, for renting. Yes, that private equity firm already has some investments in industrial properties, medical properties, and other, but they're shifting to focus 100% on developing homes for the purpose of renting and jacking up interest rate. This is where we are headed. We are at the bottom or the ignition point of what's happening if nothing changes, if there's no laws coming in. And I'll talk about what's happening in one of the states. In fact, in California, what's happening is they're putting a limit on how many homes they can buy, and I'll show you that article next. But I want to read this further from the Atlantic Civic Circle. Let me just check something here. Okay, I already read that there are over 300 tracts across metro Atlanta alone where these companies own about upwards of 50% of single family rental market. He told House of Government Affairs Committee at a February 25th hearing that considered 3 bills that would rein in institutional investors' influence over single family housing in Georgia. Those 300 census tracts make up almost 1/4 of the 1,250 census tracts of the 11-county metro Atlanta region. These companies have collectively cornered the market in many areas, limiting competition or alternative avenues for those who need or wish to live in certain locales. Furthermore, for at least 15 state house districts in urban, suburban, and rural Georgia, let me read that again, sorry. In urban, suburban, and rural Georgia, over half of the single-family rental housing is owned by hedge funds, private equity, and real estate investment trust, said Shelton, a housing expert who's extensively studied large corporate landlord practice. But what he said next drew an audibly gasp from the bipartisan committee, and then a stunned silence. Even worse is that Representative Mary Ann Santos' 117th district in Henry County, where these companies own a full 99.6% of all single-family rental homes. Wow. Look at that stat. That is amazing. So many companies are owning so many homes, especially in the, how should I say the word, in the working class area, neighborhoods, where they're buying these at a higher price, which means the local person, the local couple or local family who's working really hard, day in, day out, working extra, doing side hustles, doing overtime, they still cannot afford to buy a house because these hedge funds are paying higher. Once they buy the house, they're jacking up the price. So now these people have to pay more for rental. So this is, what do you call, a trap, something you cannot get out of. It's a trap that's never going to end, and it may get worse unless something is being done. And right now there are bills out there, depending on the state, where this is being noticed, and people are, or hopefully the reps, the Congress or Senate, whoever needs to do that, are passing laws where they can limit how much they can buy. In fact, I saw an article here. Let me show you that. Let me take this out and show you that article. Let's see here. Remove this one and add this very important article. Share. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, here's the article, and let me see if you can see it here. This article came out from CBS News. It came out on July 2nd, 2025. So it's a very recent article. And I'll read this out to you. Let me get to the screen where I can read it here. California lawmakers aims to cap number of single-family homes corporations can buy. Let's see what they say. California's housing crisis crackdown includes a stunning new look at just how many homes in your neighborhood are owned by Wall Street companies. Investment companies started buying up California homes when the foreclosure crisis hit. Now, one company owns so many, a Sacramento man made a map to show the impact. And I'll show you that map shortly. Ryan Lundquist is a Sacramento real estate analyst and appraiser who found that the Texas-based company Invitation Homes owns 11,000 homes in California and nearly 2,000 in just Sacramento. So here's Natoma's right here. There's all these properties, Lundquist said. Here's South Sacramento. All these dots represent where the company owns pretty wild. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but on the right-hand side, the map is there. On the left, on the right here where my arrow is, hopefully you can see it, are all the properties that they own. Let me read the number of properties they own in California. A Texas company, 11,000 homes in California. So that's a bad thing for the renters. It's a bad thing for the local people because these companies pay extra money. I mean, if they're buying a house for $400,000, $500,000, what's an extra $5,000, $20,000, $30,000 to them? They don't care. They have millions and millions of dollars. But if I'm buying, a $5,000 makes a big difference. $7,000 more is a big difference. But do these companies, $20,000, hey, it's a piece of cake. It's chip change for them. So they're buying it. But guess what? They make it up by jacking up the rent. So if the rent in that neighborhood is $3,000, they'll charge $3,200, and in the long term, they'll make up for that extra money that they have. Plus, if they're hedge fund companies and public companies, their portfolios look great, their profit looks great. So guess what people are going to do? They're going to buy their stocks. In fact, the home price stocks did crash a couple of weeks ago, but they've come back. They came up again. They came back up again. So the housing market is in a major shift. And again, I want to reiterate that the American dream of owning a home, I would say, is pretty much dead right now. And the new dream of renting is on the horizon, or it's already here. So the tables have shifted. In my last video that I did, or my last live that I did, I mentioned that the market is shifting, but then I said, no, market is not shifting. It has already shifted. And when it comes to the American dream, let us know in the comments, has the American dream shifted yet, or it has not shifted? Is the American dream of buying a house still there? Or are we already there where the new American dream is, hey, find me a place I can rent. I don't want to own a home anymore. Number one, I can't own it. And even if I could own it, I don't have the money to maintain, upkeep, and do all that stuff and be in a neighborhood where I have to fix the roof and this and that. So I hate to say this, but things are changing. I just saw this note here. Clark, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get to you because I could not see the screen, but I'm a realtor in Atlanta, Georgia, and these institutional investors has taken over certain counties. Wow. Thanks for the note. Let me go through your notes and we can talk about it. I tell buyers to understand the subdivisions or neighborhoods they are buying in, because you don't want to buy in a neighborhood with a lot of investors, because if they sell at one time, they can, and it continues here, possibly strip all the homeowners' equity if they sell for lower than what the buyers bought for. So I do a public record review with all my buyers now down here in Georgia. Let me make a comment. Thanks for the comments, Clark. Let's see what Clark is saying further. And hopefully, Clark, you're still here. He says here, they end up controlling the way in which the market moves in those certain areas, whether up or down with prices. Wow, unbelievable. Let me see. Here's another comment. I'm going to read that out. Let's see. Show. This is from Nichelle Jennings. The dream had definitely shifted. Thank you, Nichelle, for your comments. Okay. Thank you, Nichelle. And then we have another comment from Betty. Let's see what she says. Betty says here, where is Betty? I'm sorry. Betty, right there. Betty Boo. Hi, Mike. This American dream is dead. I can't afford anything in OC and I live in Placentia. Betty, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yes, especially in Southern California, prices are way too high. You can't find anything for $1 million. I just showed a house in Anaheim Hills. It's a 2 bedrooms, 2 bath with a loft, 1,500 square feet townhouse. You know what the price was on that townhouse? $850,000. On top of that, the association was $420,000. And guess what? They have an offer on it. So it's ridiculous. A 2-bedroom condo with a loft, with a view, minor view, $850,000. HOA is $420,000. And to make things worse, I hate to say I'm a negative guy, it also has Melrose and assessment fees, which is additionally $200 to $300 more on top of your property taxes. So, man, it's tough. I'm just glad I bought my house way long time ago, and I don't have to worry about it, but I'm very concerned because I'm a realtor. I work full-time as a realtor. My concern is that a lot of the homeowners cannot buy homes. In fact, I can tell you that out of the last 5 homes that I've sold in the last few months, 3 of them, they're all youngsters, 35, 40, 45-year-olds, youngsters. 3 of them could not have bought if their parents did not chip in money. So the one thing good, and I'm going to be a little bit positive finally after being so negative news. One thing positive and good thing happening, because one of the questions I've had in the last 3-4 years is, Mike, how the heck can people buy these homes? And I'm talking Southern California, where you get junk for $1 million, right? How can they buy? And you know what I tell them? Mom and dad is helping. That's the only way. Or a lot of people are selling their homes. Like I've been here over 25 years. I can sell this home because I bought it at this much and now it's this much. So if I sell this home, I have a lot of equity. I can buy a big brand new home. I don't want to buy a house because I'm settling down here. I don't want, but I could afford a newer house, sell this house, put all the money as down payment, and I get a brand new home with a view or whatever. I'm not going to do that, but that's how they can afford it. So yes, there's money out there. There's inheritance money out there. There's stocks and bonds and people made in. So there's a lot of money. There's a lot of people who have money, who have support, but 66%, I'm going to repeat that, 66% of households in the USA cannot afford a $250,000 house. In Orange County, I can even find a mobile home for $250,000. So that's the stats. I'm going to read some more stats here, or Clark said something else. Clark, I'm still here. The American dream is unfortunately dying. Thanks. Appreciate it. Nichelle, I'm going to read one more of your comment. I've never been a rental until the past few years. I've always owned. However, a nasty divorce caused my credit to fail, and now I will never be able to buy. Sorry to hear that, Nichelle. Hopefully, things will change for you. I'm going to put that on the screen here so that Nichelle can see it, or somebody can see it here. All right. So here's a comment from Clark again. Thanks, Clark. It says here that, let me do one thing quickly here. Remove that. Okay. Clark, thanks again. Only wealthy people will be able to buy. Purchasing a house now has become a luxury. You're absolutely right. The stats tell that. You are saying it's right. I'm saying it could be wrong because I have to be careful what I say. But according to the stats, here's the dilemma. The national average household income is $80,000. the median home price in USA today is $450,000. But to buy a $450,000 house with a 20% down, you need at least $120,000 in income. Yet the income is $80,000. So there's a dilemma right there. No wonder 66% of the households can only afford a $250,000 or cannot even afford a $250,000 house. So now we have 40% of the people, households who buy the homes. And a lot of the 40% have, Nichelle just mentioned she got divorced. Some people have bankruptcies. Some people lost their job. Some people have medical emergency. So the bills are so high. Some people have 2 kids, 3 kids going to college. So they have 3 car payments. Some people have mom and dad staying there. So they have to take care of them. A lot of them have kids. Diapers are freaking expensive today. So they cannot afford to buy even if they wanted to, because at the end of the day, you got to buy bread and butter to eat, let alone paying a mortgage. So if you're paying 50, 60% of your paycheck in household, why are you even buying a house? Why not rent? And that's exactly what's happening. Let's see. I want to see if I missed any comments in the beginning. And I wanted to bring it out. I want to go back to one of Clark's comment and read that. Possibly strip all homeowners' equity if they sell for lower than what they bought for. So I do a public record view with all my buyers now in Georgia. Great. And then you said that they end up controlling the way in which the market moves in those certain areas, whether they up or down with the prices, which I read earlier, but I just want to make sure that I address it. So thanks a lot for posting. If you have any questions, do post them. I'll be glad to answer them, or direct message me later and I'll be glad to answer them. But I do wanted to catch on some other things. There's a couple of things that I want to mention, which is a big no-no, and a lot of you won't like it and probably start fuming about it. Let me read that. I'm going to take this out of the screen. How do I do that? Let me see here. I'm going to share another screen, and that is Wall Street. This is a really good screen which will make you mad. It has made me mad. So hold on. Mad in a nice way, not mad or whatever, but let me go here. Share screen, and I'm going to talk about this. This is a screen that you're not going to like. So sorry that I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to share it. Let me see that you can see it. Yes, you can see it. So this article came out in March 2025. It's from Jacobin. Here's the stat. Wall Street loots federal loans meant for affordable housing. Let me read this. This is pretty interesting. Private equity firms are exploiting loopholes to tap billions in publicly supported funds from the Federal Home Loan Bank system, a little-known relic of the Great Depression, originally established to encourage affordable mortgage lending. Now remember, I'm just giving you facts. I'm not saying they're crooks or they're bad. I'm giving you facts. Here's the fact. When a private equity giant bought California-based grocery chain Carden's Markets in 2022, grocery workers like Maria Vargas saw their hours slashed. I can't cover my expenses anymore, said Vargas, who, like almost a third of all renters in the country, spend more than half her paychecks on rent. I wasn't kidding you when half the payments goes towards a household. When Vargas asked her employer for more hours or better wages, she was told the company couldn't afford it. They tell us they are limited in the hours they can give based on the amount they are making from sales, Vargas said. They tell us that if we don't like it, we can find somewhere else to work. While Vargas and her co-workers struggled to make rent, this is really important. However, government assistance meant to support housing affordability is instead enriching the supermarket's private equity owner, Apollo Global Management, through another tentacles of a private equity empire. The nearly $1 trillion firm has trapped billions in publicly supported funds from the Federal Home Loan Bank system a little known relic of the Great Depression, originally established to encourage affordable mortgage lending. So what they did was took these funds meant for the working class, working people, and these funds bought and got richer and richer. And I'm sure the homes they bought 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago have now appreciated. They've increased the rent, and they are laughing all the way to the bank, which I would say they have control over. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Let us know what you think about all this. Does this surprise you? Is this even a joke? But these are all the facts. And I'm just giving you the facts and proving that the American dream of owning a home has shifted now to, hey, my American dream is renting. How sad is that? How pathetic is that? And I mean that in a nice way. I know that a lot of people, Nichelle just mentioned she went through a nasty divorce. She has to rent, and I feel sorry for that. And I know other people, one of the tenants that I showed a home for lease, she had a very bad credit because her mom stays with her. Her mom gets $800 a month in Social Security. She fell and had a hip injury, and this couple, this lady helped her, and she cannot afford to make those payments. So credit is at 550 because she helped her mom, and the seller will not rent to her because she has bad credit. So it's a drastic chain, a drastic loop of events where the typical household is suffering and will suffer more. So this is a sad situation, and this is what's happening. I want to touch on a few things, and I went off track a little bit, but I wanted to give out facts based on what the viewers were talking about. So here's a question. If you're a homeowner, if you're thinking about selling, and I had a poll earlier, and if you could give a poll right now or make a comment later on. Let me summarize something. Investors are buying the dream of rentals. Sellers, whether you ride the wave or wait for families, time and strategy matter. So do you want to sell your home to a regular homeowner, or you want to send it to a Wall Street company, which you won't know because they may buy through an LLC and you don't know if it's Blackstone buying it. So would you sell to an investor or a typical homeowner? Let us know. And how will that affect your community if you sell it to an investor? So the poll is, if you can do that or make me a direct message, would you sell now or wait for shopping families? So let us know what you think. So some seller options that you can do. You can sell now to an investor, or you can wait and get a lower price. That's up to you. You can rent it out yourself and buy another house. If you're thinking like myself, I have equity. I could keep this house, rent it out, and go to Omaha or Montana or Timbuktu and buy a $250,000 house and buy something for $250 and enjoy the $5,000, $6,000 a month rent I can get, which can easily pay for my expensive. So that's an option. Or do you want to wait for the buyer re-entry? You know, when the rates drop and when the market slows down, the prices go down, maybe there'll be a lot more buyers. So do you want to wait? But if you wait as a seller, you're going to get lower prices, but you're also going to buy at a lower price. So there's a lot of things going on out there in the market. Let us know what you think. Let us know where you see the market is headed. I personally, and of course, this is my opinion based on talking to a lot of experts, reading a lot of articles, reading a lot of blogs, looking at a lot of YouTube channels, the right YouTube channels. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there. All they talk about market crash, and I'm sure you know who they are. That's all they talk about. Those are not true market YouTube video channels. They are there to make money making ads on YouTube because you watch it, and they make money when you watch because they get millions and millions of views. You keep seeing the same old thing. Oh, market's going to crash, and they make money on advertising. So don't get fooled by false YouTube channels out there. Watch those channels, make your own conclusions, check those conclusions, check those data, ask your realtor, ask your lender, ask your accountant, ask your attorney, get the right data before you buy, before you sell, before you rent, or make a decision based on watching false YouTube channels. There's plenty out there. I see one a day, and it's the same 4 or 5 channels that keep saying since 2021, market's going to crash, and fool you into what's happening, and they're making dollars. So be careful out there. Thanks for watching. I'll be back next Tuesday. Make any comments, direct message me. Also, let me know if you want to see any topics. Thank you for watching. If you're coming here the first time, I appreciate it. Please subscribe and follow.